Hello folks, I've been thinking about getting a second car for quite a long time now. It'd actually be a second car for our household because my wife doesn't run a separate car, we've just got the one. That being the Tesla that we've got as a company car through my business. The reason for having a second car is that I don't always have a car in for review. I'm often left without a car and it's just annoying at times, or I do something and my wife's left without a car. And we've got a couple of kids, obviously they're always at clubs and all that kind of stuff, and just occasionally it's a real annoyance. And for me personally as well, and believe it or not, I go to the gym 3 times a week. You know, if the weather's awful, my wife needs to take the car to work instead of walking, as she usually does. Just things like this can be annoying. Now, I haven't got a huge budget for this. If it's a car that I get privately, as in personally, like I own the car myself or my wife owns it, probably got about 4 or 5 grand to spend. And then we've got to factor in the cost of insurance, tax, servicing, all that kind of stuff. And I always like to keep some money aside in case something goes wrong with the car. So 4 or 5 grand is about where we'd be at with that. Now, if it's an electric car, I could put it through the business, and obviously a second-hand electric car could be an option. I could put that through the business and take that as a company car, or lease something and put that through the business, and that would make a lot of sense. But it's got to be electric to do that, otherwise company car tax is going to be murder. And if it is an electric car, I can almost double the budget. I could probably go to about 9 grand on that if it was an electric one. So I can buy it through the business, so I'm saving tax at source. I'm not paying corporation tax for one thing, and then for me or my wife to take money out of the business, we've then got to pay income tax on it as well. So there's quite a big tax saving if we are going to do that. Not to mention the fact that we can then insure the car through the business, and I could get a little company fleet for our couple of cars. So, you know, there are sort of pros and cons whichever way you look at it. It's another important point to make actually, is that I need an automatic really. I find it very painful to drive a manual car, and that sometimes lasts a week or 2 afterwards, simply because I've got major knee problems. That really narrows things down, and it really stretches your budget. Because if you're looking at a used petrol car with an automatic gearbox in it, 9 times out of 10, it's about 30% more expensive than it would be if it was a manual. And lots of automatics in older cars sort of mature like milk. And I don't want something that's going to give me problems. I'm a nightmare. If something goes wrong with my car, even if it's a minor thing, it just destroys me. Like it messes with my brain. Can't think about anything else until it's sorted. And I don't always have like money lying around to fix things. I really don't. Not every YouTuber's Matt Armstrong or Yanni or Alex Kirsten. You know, some of us are sort of scraping by a little bit. So yeah, these are all considerations. I'm rambling, I know, all considerations. Right, let's have a look at the cars I've been thinking about. So this is a car I've wanted since they first appeared on the market. I've always loved the new BMW Minis. I think they look great. I've always wanted one. They're not the most reliable things in the world. I know it's going to cost money to keep on the road. I know servicing is going to be expensive. And look at stuff like this. Look at the running costs on it. 415 quid a year for tax on a little Mini. I mean, it's just daft. There are so many great cars that have just been taxed out of existence, really, or not out of existence, but you've got to have a budget. Mini's a real enthusiast car, and the forums are great. There's loads of people with loads of knowledge on them. So if I was quite handy with the spanners and I had the time to do that kind of stuff, I would just get that car, and that would be the end of it. Also, I don't know about the automatic gearboxes. I don't know how good or bad they are, but that's something I would research on if I sort of got that far. But for me at the moment, I wouldn't get one just because of sort of known reliability issues, and I mean, they're sort of known to throw a bit of oil around and that kind of stuff. And for a car that's probably going to get more occasional use than regular use, I don't think it's the way to go. Also, we're looking at a 2006 car in 2024. Stuff's just going to need replacing because of old age at this stage, you know. So I don't have the budget for it. I don't think I'm brave enough for it. So then you're looking at like a 2010, and this one looks great actually. This looks like a really nice example. Obviously I haven't seen the car, but from this ad it looks great. It's 5 grand. It's a Mini Cooper S, which is the one I would really want, is the Cooper S. It used to be supercharged and then later became turbocharged. This is the Camden edition. 63,000 miles. It looks very tidy apart from one ding, which is there. And this is a good sign. It's got Pirellis on it, and it's got 4 Pirellis on it. Why is that a good sign that someone's bought expensive tyres? Someone that buys expensive tyres looks after their car generally. If they've got something from the middle aisle in Lidl on one corner, and they've got a 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎 on the other corner, a Goodyear on the back left, and an Avon on the back right, then you know it's someone that's just either buying part warns or just going to the place and just getting a cheap tyre at the time. And a car is much, much better when it has 4 tyres of the same make and model, as it were. Only 2 owners on it as well. The current owners had it for 4 years. So this has got 63,500 miles, 5 grand. It's at the top of the budget. There's a lot going for this car. It looks very tidy on the face of things anyway. So that would be one I'd be interested in going and have a look at it. If it weren't a 2010 Mini, which has got the, I think it's the N14 engine, and if anything, they're more unreliable than these ones. In fact, a lot of people say that this era of Mini is what's given Mini such a bad reputation for reliability. To get past this, we need to go to a 2014 Mini. Once you get to 2014, much more reliable generally, and a little bit of a facelift. This one's a 5-door, which for a man with 2 kids is probably a great idea, but I'd still rather have a 3-door. I think Mini's a 3-door car personally, but yeah, 5 doors wouldn't be the end of the world. This one's got 82,000 miles on it. It's got 5 owners, and it's 8.5 grand. And yeah, the mileage is not a massive issue because we're probably going to do like 3,000 or 4,000 miles a year in it, but it's too much money. Like I simply cannot afford that price, let alone the insurance and everything else. The tax is cheaper on the newer ones, 160 quid, which is much more sensible. That's where we are. I can't afford it. So let's move on. Then you come to this. This is the 2014 Mini Coupe. It's actually Mini Cooper S Coupe. As you can see, the design is slightly odd. In fact, I say as you can see, but you can't really see that well. But that's what they look like. And I've always thought it's a bit of an ugly duckling. But in this colour scheme, I don't actually hate it. So I've never been a big fan of the design of these, but in these colours, it's not too bad. There are some really horrible colour combinations on these. And inside it's still very much like a Mini, but it's only got 2 seats. Now, I did say initially that I was thinking about just getting something fun that's just for me or my wife. Very unlikely we're going to have more than 1 child with us in that car. But if we did need to have 4 seats at some point, it's a bit of a restriction, isn't it? So there we go. Not sure about that one. This one is 5.5 grand. It's in Portsmouth, which is not too far from me, and the seller's been honest. They've said it's got a well-known issue with coupes, which is a head unit fault. Basically the volume on and off doesn't work, so you just have to turn the volume down and turn it up again. That is a really well-known fault, and it comes from water getting in, I think, the passenger side window, and gets in and destroys that. And if it hasn't happened on yours, it probably will. So 5.5 grand, over budget. It's missing a couple of seats. Not sure about that one. Next we've got the Z4. Again, this is only 2 seats, and this is the 3-litre one. This is the one I would want. The 3 litres, more reliable. It's more fun. It's just a great engine. It's that 3-litre flat 6. 65,000 miles, 2003 model. Only 2 owners on this one, which is good. Full service history with no known faults and 4 new tyres. Power steering, traction control, AC, CD player, blah, blah, blah. And it all looks quite tidy on the face of things. Pictures of the service book. Obviously I'd want to see receipts with that, otherwise I'd be ringing the garages that have supposedly serviced it and see if they know the car, because that's something I do, because I'm like that. Running costs, 415 quid a year tax, 20 mpg. It's in budget. We've got a little bit left over potentially to put away in case anything goes wrong. They're going to spend a load of that on the tax, and it's not going to do much mpg. And also, look, it's a 2003 car. So even if the engine's good and the gearbox is good, you've potentially got 21-year-old brake lines and hoses and all that kind of stuff. I'm also aware that I'm going to look really tragic going around in a low sports car soft top, but I don't care about looking tragic, to be fair. If you're going to look tragic, you've got to mention the Porsche Boxster. You can get one of these. This actually looks like a really good example, but it's a 1998, so all the things I just said about the other car apply here. It's got the Tiptronic box. There have been plenty of problems with Porsche automatic gearboxes. 63,000 miles, full service history, classic beauty in brilliant condition. Only 2 owners, which is brilliant on one of these. Usually there've been a lot of owners on a car of that age, and that's a good sign that the car's been good, as long as the last owner hasn't had it for 12 minutes. Ideal for enthusiasts and those seeking a reliable yet thrilling ride. However, you know, Boxsters, there's a list as long as your arm of problems with those that cost a lot of money. If you know, you know, but trust me, that's a car that you need some budget for. A lot of people will buy a very, very expensive car used and don't consider how much it's actually going to cost just to keep it on the road. You know, a service in that car might cost you a couple of £1,000 if you have it done properly. Anything that goes wrong, if you've got to get it from Porsche, it's going to cost ridiculous amounts of money. And although, you know, that was a very expensive car when it was new and you can now get it for £5,500, you've still got to have the budget to be able to keep it on the road and keep it in tip-top condition. £345 tax on that one. You think about that, the tax on that is £60 less than that. It's insanity, isn't it? So then you think, well, do I just get something completely boring and sensible? Something that just will do the job. It's going to be really reliable. It's going to be really cheap to run. So once we start going down that route, nothing's more sensible than an old Yaris, is it? But look at this, £6,000. It's a 2011 model with 45,000 miles on it. £6,000. This multi-mode automatic, I'm not sure about that at all. I haven't actually driven one of those to my knowledge, but I've got a feeling they might be a little bit poo. I'm not too sure though. If you know, let me know in the comments. As brilliant a car as an old Yaris is, there's just nothing about that car that appeals to me in any way, apart from the fact that I know it's going to be reliable. £35 a year to tax, 54 MPG, insurance group 8, you know, that's the sensible car, I guess. That's the car that I should go for. Then you've got the VW Up. Now, this one, I want to point something out to you on. And while I've been looking at cars, I just couldn't believe how many of these are in existence. But this is an imported car. So if you look, it's 25,000 miles on a 2013 car, and it's been imported. You will find no end of imported cars with extremely low mileage. And I would say that's possibly because during that import process, you know, things can change, shall we say. Some of them, like this, probably come from Japan, and in Japan, quite often people are not doing lots and lots of miles in their cars. So it could be genuine, but it might not be. And also, if you're getting an imported car, you need to consider getting the thing undersealed and stuff. It's come from somewhere where they don't use salt on the roads, where their climate's a bit better than ours. The car might not be galvanized. You might not have certain sort of undersealed protections and stuff like that. So you probably want to pay to get the thing undersealed, and that's not cheap. And if you were to do it yourself, it's a bloody messy job, and you need to be able to do it properly. So some considerations around that. But again, it's got this like semi-automated gearbox. It hasn't got the DSG as you normally get in VW Group cars, which itself can be massively problematic, but not too expensive to put right generally. But this has got some weird like automated manual, and I'm just not a fan of those. It would cost you bugger all to run this, £20 a year on tax. Don't know what the MPG is. That's a car that you should buy as a manual. And something like a Citroen C1, Toyota Aygo, they're all cars that you should just get as a manual, because they're brilliant manual cars. But when you've got a broken knee, not so much. So then I think about leasing an electric car. And we've seen this van recently. I did a video on this when the deal came out. The deal's still around. It's still in stock. I'll put a link to it in the video description. Nissan Townstar L1 Accenta van, 89 quid a month. That's excluding VAT. I'm not VAT registered, so I've got to put VAT on top of that. So you're looking at 110 quid a month roughly, and then about 1,300 quid up front. It's only 1.5 years on a lease and 5,000 miles. And I'll tell you what, I made a decision that, sod it, I'm just going to go for this. It's only got 2 seats. It's a van. I don't need a van, but actually it would come in handy on occasion, like when I'm doing DIY jobs and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm just going to get this. It's going to give me no hassle. Can have it for 18 months. I can reassess the situation in 18 months. It might be that I can then afford like the Mini that I want, or the 3-litre 1 Series BMW that I want, or something else that I really want. And I wasn't accepted for the lease because obviously I have to do it as my business, and I've only got like a couple of years of books to show for my business. The first year was almost nothing, and the second year I bought the Tesla, so you know. Anyway, I wasn't accepted for the lease. I can't lease one. I could have done it personally, but if I'm getting an electric vehicle as a second vehicle, I'd just rather put it through the business. It just makes sense to do so. And really, this makes no sense for me to run a little van as a second car. It makes no sense whatsoever. So if I could have put it through the business, I could have made sense of it. And I need to make sense of things because I'm mental. Right, so let's go down the electric route now. So let's look at getting an electric car through the company. So you could get something like this. Nissan Leaf, 2012, 2 grand, right? I mean, if you get 2 years out of it, all right, great. If you get 5 years out of it, even better. 90,000 miles on it, but 109 miles of range when it was new. And in reality, you're going to get about 60 from that, I would say. And I would say it'd probably be a damn sight less than that in the winter. And yes, I'm going to be running the aircon all the time, because I always run the aircon all the time because I spend my life too warm. So I'm not going to get great mileage from it. After 90,000 miles and 12 years, the battery's not still going to be giving you 109 miles of range. That was probably a WLTP or whatever the equivalent was in 2012 figure, which means reality is it's not that anyway. So I'm not going to get one of those. And as much as the Leaf is a really good car, I've never personally had a desire to have a Leaf. Likewise with the Renault Zoe. People will often look at the Euro NCAP rating for this. The later Zoe's got a terrible Euro NCAP report. I actually don't mind the look of the Zoe. I don't think it's a bad looking thing. I think the newer interior on these newer ones is actually all right. I don't go to bed dreaming of owning a Zoe every night, but I don't think it's terrible. However, look at this, 83,000 miles on a 21 plate. Now, on a petrol car, that wouldn't bother me, because I'm thinking we're going to put 3,000 or 4,000 miles a year on this car. I don't care if it's done 83,000 and it's 3 years old, because in the next 3 years, it's going to do 8,000, 12,000 maybe, you know. So I'm not too bothered about that. By the time I've got rid of it, the mileage will be average or below average. So that wouldn't particularly bother me. However, on an electric car that's 3 years old and it's done 83,500 miles, it's going to have been rapid charged a lot. That's obviously been used by someone going up and down the country all day, every day. And with the best will in the world, I doubt that was charged on a slow charger every time. But if you are putting those kind of miles onto a car and you've got a range of maybe 200, then it just speaks for itself. Someone's been doing a lot of miles in that car on a daily basis, so it's had a lot of rapid charges. So you'd have to worry about the battery on that, I would say. Maybe not, but I don't know. It would be a worry for me. Then you've got this, and this makes loads of sense, really. So a little say at me. It's obviously the same car as the Skoda Citigo and the VW E-Up, but the Seat one's always cheaper. It's always like $1 grand less. Don't know why. It seems like the Skoda's possibly sometimes the most expensive, and they're all the same car. 9,100 quid, 31,000 miles on it, 4-year-old car. It's not going to give you thrills and spills, but I have driven one before, and they're actually a really nice, fun little car. They're not quick, anything like that. It's just a fun little car. Very, very basic. They're massively efficient. They do like 5 miles per kilowatt hour, something like that. Yeah, that would make a load of sense, but it's not one of these, is it? You know, what's the first thinking of? You know, something fun. Okay, so my question to you folks is, what should I go for? Should I go with heart or head? Bearing in mind that my wallet is significantly emptier if I go with heart, and I'm going to be looking at a fairly frilly example of a car I really want if I go with heart. And if I go with head, I'm going to get something that is probably a perfectly sensible choice, but I might not love it. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. What would you go for? Have you got something you'd like to sell me? Remember, I need an automatic car. It needs to be have a rock solid reputation for reliability, really, because I just don't have the money to put anything right if it goes wrong. And it needs to be relatively cheap to run, unless it's absolute bargain basement kind of territory. Maybe you're going to take something to We Buy Any Car that's actually a brilliant car, but you're going to lease something. And I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I've done this to stroke my own ego, by the way, this video, and to tell you everything about my life. I've done this really because this whole thought process might actually show you how someone else thinks about buying a car and the things they consider, and maybe it's made you think of something that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. So I hope it's some kind of helped you. If not, it's maybe of some interest to you, seeing what that weird patchy haired fat bloke on the internet does when he's looking at buying a car, and you realize actually how insane I am and how my crazy thought process works. But there we go. It is what it is. Thank you if you got to this point in the video. The algorithm, actually, more than anything, seems to love people watching a video for as long as possible. So even if you put this on and can't be bothered to listen to me drone anymore and go off and make a cup of tea, leaving the videos on for as long as possible really, really helps. I've only just become aware of this, but I think it's a big deal. So thanks for all the support as always. I've just got to 45,000 subscribers. A massive thanks to all of you for making that happen. Still pushing for that 50 this year, and then onwards to the big 100, I suppose. Thanks ever so much, folks. I'll see you on the next one.